Good morning once again. My name is Dr. Binoshola Akinwale. I am your tutor for this course, and the course title is Developmental Psychology 3. So the topic I'm going to be considering today is development in adolescence. I am sure that at this level we are, all of us have either passed through the stage of the adolescence or we're still in that stage. So most of the things I'm going to be talking about this morning are things many of us can actually relate to development. And I'm going to start with good development. When we talk about physical development in adolescence, these include changes that occur through a process called puberty. As we have discussed in our previous lessons and classes, during puberty, the brain releases certain hormones. The hormones cause the body to change physically and their sexual organs to mature. The child will likely experience a growth spurt that all of us have actually experienced at what point or the other. This period is marked with significant development that begins with the onset of puberty and ends in the mid of 20s. So basically, we all have to agree in this class at what age should we take adolescence. For some studies, for some documents, you will see adolescence starting from the age of 12. For others, you may see adolescence starting at the age of 15. But for the purpose of this class and teaching, it is fine that we start taking the cutoff point for adolescence from age 10. For my own PhD thesis, adolescence begins at age 10 for me, and I allowed it end at 21. So that's a span of about 11 years. That's why I said many of us are in this particular age group. So we can say for the purpose of this class, we're considering age 12 to 24 as our adolescent period. The trajectory between these two ages involve a profound amount of change in all domains of development, that is the biological development, the cognitive development, the psychosocial development, and emotional development. Personal relationships and settings also change during this period as many young people start having romantic partners. Some begin to become more central about their lives, and some adolescents moves on to and even beyond secondary school. Some even gain employment during this stage. Cognitive and communication development is one of the critical areas of development in adolescence. Many of us during our childhood stage, when we talk, when we think, when we say certain things, a lot of us knows that. In fact, we often use this word in my dialect in Yoruba. Mi ò gbọ́n gbà yẹn. Some of us at age 5, age 8, during our career day, what do you want to be? A policeman, Àmọ̀tẹ́kùn, nurse, and several other ones. But today, where are we? This is our reality stage. We are now following our reality in terms of our growth and our development. So, between the ages of 5 to 11, the processes in our brain in terms of processing issues tend to be slower. But by the time we get to age 11 to about 18, it becomes quite fast and notable. Sometimes age 7, 8, you tell your parents certain things, they just say, it's okay. My Yoruba parents will say, mo ti gbọ́, because they don't have the strength to argue with someone that is still developing cognitively. And interestingly, some of us, even at our 20s, we are not still developing cognitively. Some of us will still reason like a baby. Some of us still reason in a way that sometimes people around us question us. So when it comes to cognitive development, it varies from one person to the other. But most importantly, as we grow older, the executive functions begin to grow for us. There are three particular areas we are going to be focusing on in terms of cognitive development. We're going to talk about the executive function, we're going to talk about social cognition, and language development. All these three ingredients must be present in us before we can say, oh, we are navigating or we are moving on to adulthood stage. So let's quickly talk about social development. Social development is often described as the process of establishing a sense of identity and establishing a role and purpose. It is an outward sense of oneself. Body image is a key factor in developing a sense of identity, especially for girls. For a boy child, at a point in your life, you don't even care. You can wear your boxer and you'll be going about your community and you are doing your fine boy like that. For most girls, at a point in our life, many of us were just moving around. We're just moving without being bothered about our outlook, about our appearance. But at a point, things will change. And when those things change, we begin to identify that, oh, I now have a breast to cover. My buttock is shaking. I can't afford to wear pants around my community. And a host of other things we used to take for granted. So social development is key and is one of the parameters to ensure that development is really taking place for many of us. Also, we need to consider that during this stage, personality development is something that all of us talk about. When our personality is developing, some of us, we are trying to be like our parents, we are trying to form our own identity, and a host of other things we all try to do at that stage of development. But it is of importance that we also consider the risk-taking behaviors that many of us tend to exhibit at that period. When I say risk-taking behavior, here I'm talking about certain behaviors like trying to take alcohol, trying to smoke, and a host of other behaviors that involves risk-taking. Sometimes you take a risk by going to parties, hanging out with certain friends, even without permission of your parents or your guardian. So let's move on to emotional development. As we grow older, there is also what we call emotional development. Emotionally, we are developing. If you are at this stage and you're not developing emotionally, oh, maybe you might be a client for therapy. Because emotionally, we ought to see things about you now. We want to see some emotional assets, some emotional skills that will help you survive as an adult. One of them is being resilient. As an adolescent, your resiliency skill is something that is really profound at this stage. When I say profound at this stage, it means that this stage you are really paying attention to your ability to navigate or to go through or to bear certain things, whether comfortable or not comfortable. I tell people that many of the school dropouts you are seeing today, many of them are out of school because they are not resilient. Not necessarily because they don't really have money. Money is not enough to sustain you through education. What you need to sustain you through education is to be resilient. Sometimes the kind of culture in which we learn is not a very favorable one. When I say not favorable, in the sense that many of us are in schools, in an environment that does not really support us. When I say not support us, the climate may not really be friendly in terms of lecturer-student relationship. It may be the environment in which you are learning from. It may be the environment you are learning for. Please just drop an emoji to be sure that we're still together. It may be the environment we are learning from. And all other things. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Laron, I appreciate it. And all other issues like that within our environment. And school is one of the key sites for our social and emotional learning. Some of these learning skills, we may not really achieve it coming from our various homes. But when we come to the university environment, there are every opportunities for us to develop ourselves emotionally. Sometimes you might talk to me, I might not be in a very happy mood, and I scold you like, get out of my office. If you are not resilient, you can say, oh, because Dr. Kinwale scolded me, I'm dropping out of this university. For real, I might have done something not good, but that is not still an enough reason for you to drop out of school. So what's the place of you being resilient? What is the place of you coming back the next day? Dr. Kinwale, hope all is well. Hey, I came to you yesterday, you were not friendly. Hope you're good. Hope you two, you are not going through certain issues. That is when I will know that, oh, emotionally, you two, you are developing. Fine, I might not be in my good shape yesterday. That does not mean tomorrow will not be a better day. But if you are not resilient, you say, oh, because the lecturer, Mr. Oscar, scolded me, or I probably scored a B in a course, I'm dropping out of the university. So when you see a lot of people on the streets that tell you something about school, I tell them that the place of not being resilient. I've seen several undergraduates that comes to the university even without financial support from parents. They come, they just want to come and try their luck. They keep navigating the environment. At a point, you see luck shining on them. They get favored, they get opportunities, and they still get to where they are going in life. Also, the place of self-esteem. Some of us, our self-esteem can easily be, let me say, put down just because someone say, oh, you're not looking good. And next thing you're feeling bad, like, oh, I'm so ugly. They said I'm not looking good. And you're bothered. If someone look up to you and say, oh, you're not looking fine, oh, say thank you. And in your mind, you are like, oh, that you don't even know someone that is fine. Me that I'm finer than you. And you're moving on. Another one is coping skills. Coping skills are things that are very critical during adolescent period. When I say critical, there are several issues that all of us will continue to face as we grow older. And ability to cope with life challenges makes us to be developed emotionally. Also, let's move on to the next one. I'm trying to move my slide. Okay, the next one is cognitive development. Cognition is the process involving thought to be rational and perception. The physical changes of the brain that occur during adolescence all follow typical pattern of cognitive development. They are characterized by development of the higher level cognitive functioning that align with the changes in brain structure and function, particularly in the prefrontal cortex region. That is the context that really controls so many things about us at this stage of development. The structural and functional brain changes affect the opportunity for increased memory and processing. They may also contribute to vulnerability, such as risk-taking and increased sensitivity to mental illness. If you have seen people with mental-related challenges, let me take you back to the slide on emotional development. If you have seen people with mental illness, you will see that these emotional assets that we're talking about here, when I say emotional assets, I'm talking about to be resilient here. I'm trying to look for a marker to use. So when I talk about the emotional assets, I'm talking about us being resilient, us being able. It talks about our cognitive skills. It talks about our coping skills. Many people that you see today, with mental health challenges. I tell you, many of them are with related issues. When there are issues with cognitive development, yes, I was trying to look for a lighter. Resilience, self-esteem, and coping skills. When these three are lacking in people, they may be more vulnerable to mental illness in future. Also, we have what we call the executive functions. Executive functions serves like a supervisory function. And what do they really do? It control other modular cognitive functions in our brain. These include self-control. Self-control is what we tell you that because others are smoking marijuana does not mean I have to take it. That is the place of self-control. Abstraction has to do with how well you can use your abstract reasoning to solve some of these life challenges. And coming to the university, you will see the role of self-control in helping us navigate all of this. Also, all this coordination that we talk about can determine whether someone is really growing or someone is not growing. Also, we have socio-cognitive development. And if you have paid attention to the work of Albert Bandura, you will know that the role of exposure contributes majorly to our social development. Some of us, the way we talk, the way we walk, the way we do so many things are primarily influenced by our social relationships with our peers. So as a preteen, they have this awareness of themselves, but sometimes they need people around them to let them know that, oh, I am doing this thing fine, or I am not doing this thing fine. Many of the skills required to execute social behaviors successfully are included under the umbrella term of social cognition, which refers to a set of cognitive processes that are thought to be specific to social functioning. Although the specific cognitive functions that are included in cognitive social cognition continue to be a subject of debate, most authors agree that even theory of mind that we talk about, which has to do with the use of with our ability to recognize emotions, is still common in every one of us. Some people can read emotions, some cannot even read at all. Some will just see you and they just feel like, that's you. And they don't really care about what's happened and what you are going through. But when the theory of mind is well developed, especially when we get to adolescent stage, you will see an adolescent that can feel what others are feeling. I commonly use an example to describe young people without theory of mind. All these young bombers that we see in the north, they will just ask you to put bomb on your own body, to go detonate it on your body, to go and bomb certain set of people. If you have theory of mind, you won't do it. Because theory of mind is not necessarily conscience, but it's your inability to read emotions, to recognize emotions. You don't know when people are laughing. You don't know when people are sad. Because if you really know when people are not happy, there are certain things you don't do at that period. So we have language development. In language development, as we grow older, our sentence length tend to also increase. If you see my little girl that is just 7, the sentence length is usually shorter because these kids are just coming up. But as you grow older, you become a literate in terms of vocabulary. We call it literate vocabulary. At this level, you can use your vocabulary, the ones that you need in academic, the ones that you need in a professional environment. Whereas those that are not developing in their languages, you see them, they don't know the right word to use in each and every. Let's say we're in the classroom now, and you want to excuse yourself to use the bathroom. At this level, Based on your language development skills, you won't say, I am going to the toilet. You rather use words like, oh, can I please excuse myself? I want to go to the restroom. I want to just excuse myself. I want to use can't. Not that I want to go and poo-poo. But if a 7-year-old stands in front of the class and say, oh, I want to go and poo-poo, all of us will laugh because language development at that stage is still something that we can talk about. But at this our adolescent and adulthood stage, if we are using certain vocabularies in some places, some people will even ask you, like, I don't know where you're coming from, because some of us, we have even said it times without numbers, like the way you use your words, the way you use your language. So language development is one of the key areas we focus on when it comes to human development. Some of these development appear to reflect declarative knowledge gains, that is, in terms of vocabulary, knowledge about language. Others, such as the use of complex embedded clause structures, the ability to resolve ambiguous sentences, and comprehension of proverbs in written text. All of this has been linked to improvement in our working memory and abstract reasoning. If you tell a 5-year-old that, oh, Uncle Shekun kicked the bucket, I'm sure that a 5-year-old cannot process Uncle Shekun kicked the bucket. But at this my own stage and your stage, we must be able to find meaning to even ambiguous words. We must be able to use figure of speech comfortably. We must be able to use proverbs and few other things to replace our words so that we don't just say, oh, I can just come, okay, oh, sorry, Uncle Shegun passed. But for a 5-year-old, a 5-year-old will not say, oh, Uncle Shegun passed. A 5-year-old will say, Uncle Shegun die. What to kick Uncle Shegun, you do bam. That's just the way a 5-year-old will present it. But I don't expect you to present it like that. So the way we grow older, our language development also increases. And when you now have a friend that in terms of language development, the person isn't there, you yourself, you sometimes tell yourself like, the way you use your words, yeah. Because you know that in terms of language, the person is not developed. So let's talk about relation of brain changes to cognitive changes. There is a saying, or there are research evidences in the literatures that puts it that the brain continues to develop up until the age of 25. So that is the maturation of our cognitive, emotional, and behavioral processes. We continue to grow as we grow older, up until we get to about 25 years old. So, and this has been linked to the gray and the white matter development in our cortex. So when we talk about the gray and the white matter, the focus is made on the cognitive changes in the brain. I'm sure you have done physiology. Some of these areas ought to have been talked about. And why talking about some of these brain changes? It's important we talk about brain changes because why do we frown about 14, 13-year-old going into marriage? When a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old is going into marriage, we all know that the brain is still developing. Judgment is not going to be certain at that stage. If you see most consent form, that is why you see it stating age 18 as the age in which they can take your consent. The implication is that they believe that the brain is still developing. What some of us said when we were 12, age 13, age 15 is not what we're saying again now. Some of us will even brag. At 21, I'll be married. 22, I'll be carrying my first child. 25, I'm doing my 50 years wedding anniversary. I'm holding my second baby. The reality today is that here you are, 25, still running around for a degree. But that does not mean you were stupid. At that point, that is the capacity of your brain in terms of functionality. That was the best you could process. But now you're living in your reality. Even when they ask you to come marry now, you are telling yourself, like, I don't think I'm ready. Please, can you still give me a little time so I can prepare myself, gain other strength or other things I need to survive in the marriage? So by implication, it means that it's not really about what you do today. It's about how some of these things will go on as we continue to grow. So let's move on to the next slide. So let's talk about the psychosocial development in adolescence. And I am sure that Dr. Bada or whosoever taught you the Erickson's theory, in fact, this is your class, did not do personality development, right? So did you do Erickson theory at certain points? So let's talk about psychosocial development in adolescence. The psychosocial development by Erik Erikson, we have 8 stages on the theory. But the 4th stage and the 5th stages are the ones that really pertain to this course. As it is described by that theory, the cognitive abilities provide the capacity for all aspects of our psychosocial development that occur during this period of adolescence. When we say we are talking about identity majorly here, you can't talk about identity and understanding yourself when there is no cognitive development. So understanding oneself, understanding one's place in the world, and understanding one's capacity to affect the world are all the processes that take shape during adolescence. And this is in tandem with the physiological, neurobiological, and the cognitive changes that we have discussed earlier. If you want to understand yourself, there's a place of cognitive development. If you really want to understand your purpose in this life, it's a place of cognitive development. So even for you to develop as a social being, you still need your cognitive development first. So looking at the trajectory of social and emotional development in adolescence, you will see that it is best characterized, or we can put it that it is increasingly complex and comes with a lot of integration. Integration in the sense that you need the cognition, you need the social, you need the emotional before you can talk about you as a psychosocial being or your psychosocial development. As is true to their neurobiological developments during the period of during this period, adolescents' capacity for understanding and engaging with self, others, and societal institutions requires both integration and deepening. It requires adolescents to integrate multiple perspectives and experiences across contexts. And this will also help to deepen the ability to make sense of complex and abstract phenomena. So now let's talk about identity. Identity means that we are all finding the answer to the question of who am I? So now I'm putting it to you. Who are you? It's a rhetorical question. I don't expect an answer. Just answer it in your mind. Who am I? For some of us, when they ask, who are you? Some will say, oh, I'm a psychology student. Some will say, oh, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a Christian, I'm a child of God, I'm a prophet, I'm an apostle. All those identity things I've mentioned, they are all correct. So it is depending on who you are. You might walk up to me like, Dr. Kinwale, who are you? I say, oh, I'm Dr. Kinwale, I'm a lecturer. You might also ask me and say, oh, I'm Dr. Kinwale, I'm a psychologist. You can also ask me, who are you? Oh, I'm Mrs. Akinwale. I'm a mother of 3. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. You may also ask me and say, oh, I'm Benisha Akinwale. I'm a daughter. So that means I've answered you like 5 ways. And to a large extent, all of them are correct. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. To my parent, I'm a daughter. To my church, I'm a minister. To you as my student, I'm a teacher. To some of my friends, I'm just a content creator. So we all answer it differently. But basically, none is wrong. We need to understand that we are all correct in our own way. So moving on, I'm sure we are quite familiar with Erickson's theory. Erickson 1968 argued that during adolescence stage, youth take on the challenge of developing a coherent, integrated, and stable sense of themselves, and that failing to do so may make the transition to adult roles and responsibilities more difficult. If you see some of your mates that are occupying one position or the other, you will see that they are the ones taking on the challenge by themselves. It's not as if the society that is saying, oh, you have to be a student leader. You have to choose, who are you? I want to be a leader. How do you develop these skills? Okay, let me start by ensuring that I put myself out for things being done in my environment so that I can stay relevant. So all of this put together can really determine our identity. Closely related to the question I raised earlier, who am I, is the question of how do I see myself? Do I see myself as a good person? Do I see myself as a bad person? Do I see myself as a child of God? Do I see myself as a winner? Do I see myself as a failure? So, winner, I want to put it to you now. In 30 seconds, ask yourself, how do I see myself? So, how do you see yourself? Some will see themselves as a billionaire. Some will see themselves as being poor. Some see themselves as being beautiful. Some will look at them like, oh, I'm ugly. They're all right. You can choose to be ugly, fine. You can choose to see yourself as a coin. It's all about you, it's not about me. So it's important that we ensure that when we are working with our own clients in future, those are the things that will help them unravel some of their struggles. When I'm teaching you a course like this, please note that it's not really about you. Some of the things I'm teaching you is about those that will be your whole clients in the near future, those people you'll be working with. So we are putting this effort into it. It's not about you. So you can have your clients going through a certain challenge and ask them, who are you? How do you see yourself? These two questions can take someone over an hour to answer. That is when you know that people don't really know who they are. Some are great people, but they don't know they are great. They don't even value what they have. They just look at themselves like, so you really need to understand that it is important that you understand the trajectory of self. That is, we must understand the developmental trajectory of self. And when we understand this, using a set of sequential metaphors that we now call the social actors, this thing will help us as we grow. And it will help us to become a motivated agent in adulthood because things are more purposeful and agent-driven, guided by values, motives, and hopes. And finally, an autobiographical author in emerging adulthood. So it is important as we're going through our life stages, we're asking ourselves, who am I? What am I doing? What am I living for? Is my stay important? If I don't go to school for a whole semester, does it matter? Do people really care about me? And a host number of questions like that. More importantly, theory suggests and empirical evidence supports the idea that having a more achieved identity and integrated sense of self relate to positive well-being in adulthood and even throughout the life course. So when you understand your identity, when you know his, it will help you develop a positive well-being as you grow on in life. So identity and self. This is just talking about the neurobiological perspective. Then let's talk about social identities in adolescence. As many youth work towards building a cohesive, integrated answer to the question of who am I. The answer itself is shaped by membership across multiple social groups, race, ethnicity, nationality, sexuality, gender, religion, political affiliation, ability status, and more. Indeed, in the context of increasingly complex cognitive abilities and social demands, youth may be more likely to contest, negotiate, and elaborate upon certain things and internalize the meaning of membership in terms of their racial and ethnic, gender, sexual, and other social identity groups. So it is important that you have social identity. Some of us, if you ask, so who are you? Oh, I'm a Yoruba girl. Who are you? I am Igbo. Who are you? I'm a black lady from Nigeria. Some will say, based on nationality, oh, I'm African, I'm American, I'm a South African, I'm Zimbabwean. That means you identify yourself based on nationality. And some identify themselves based on their sexuality. Who are you? I am gay, I am lesbian, I'm a queer, and a host number of other identities. Some may identify themselves in terms of gender. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a girl, a boy. In terms of religion, some of us, they ask us, who are you? Oh, I'm a redeemer. I'm a winner. I'm a Muslim. I'm an Ijabite sister. All of these are religion ways in which we identify. Another one is by political affiliation. Some of us will say, oh, how do we call these Labour Party people? Text it, put it in the chat box. How do we call these Labour Party people? Obedient. Who are you? I am obedient. That's another way of affiliation. And some people, they are affiliated just because of that title. Oh, I remain obedient. Also, we have ability status. That could be in terms of what you can do. You see some, they will tell you, I'm a tech guy. I'm a tech expert. So that means based on the ability they are doing that. And it could also be based on profession. If I ask you, who are you? Oh, I'm an undergraduate student of UNILAG. You ask another person, oh, I'm a postgraduate student of UNILAG. You ask another person, oh, I'm a doctoral student in UNILAG. You ask another person, oh, I'm a postdoctoral fellow student. Can you see that all of us, it will also be by status? No way of social identity is wrong. It just depends on who we are and what we are really looking out for. So let's briefly talk about ethnic racial identity. When we talk about ethnic racial identity, currently our nation's population of adolescents is continuing to increase in diversity, with no single racial or ethnic group in the majority. And that is true of us in Nigeria now. In this class, we have Igbos, we have Yorubas. So it's not as if we are saying Lagos belongs to Yoruba only. No, you can see that class, you can even have half of the members of the class that are non-Yorubas. So many ethnic racial identity going on. Also in terms of sexual orientation, people are becoming more expressive about their gender orientation and sexual orientation. And now there is a lot of awareness on sexuality. And as people are growing older now, people are expressing themselves. Some are not even afraid of their parents. They tell their parents, I do guys, I do this. And they are not really afraid. For you to know that people are really identifying with things that they are really comfortable with. So now we have this subtopic here, which is identity complexity. And when we talk about complexity, this comes about using like a complex or multifaceted identity that goes beyond stereotypical expectation of a social group norm, especially when it comes to an inclusive belief. For instance, a youth who identifies as a Black 13-year-old trans female who also plays volleyball and loves gaming, is apt to have more positive attitude towards other racial group that she would. No, there's something wrong with that statement. She might want to identify with many racial ethnic groups, also based on the game she plays. She might also identify with so many volleyballers like herself. Because she's also transgender, you can see that she may also relate with a lot of transgender people. Also, you can see that she's also Black. So being Black means that she might not mind anyone that is Black around her. She wouldn't mind to play with people that are ladies or female around her. She might not mind playing with people that are volleyballers or people that love playing games, because her own identity is multifaceted. There are a lot of things that will not restrict her into a particular community. So this slide is talking about the social identity and the neurobiology nature of all discussion. Cultural neuroscience offers some insights into how social identity development may manifest at the neurobiological level. Although further research is needed to understand the complex relationship between this biology and culture. In adolescence, evidence suggests that areas of the brain attuned to social information may be undergoing shifts that heightens youth social sensitivity and, of course, adolescent social brains. We see that the social brains continue to develop. When some people come into campus in year one, they have a particular perspective to things, and at the end of the day, they still find another perspective over a period of time. So I think I'm moving close to the end of the slides. So this is the most summary now put together of all we have been talking about, particularly on the identity issue. We have long considered identity exploration as a hallmark of adolescent development. An adolescent identity is an emerging reflection of his or her values, beliefs, and aspiration, and it can be constructed and reconstructed over time and experience. Multiple factors such as family, culture, peers, media, shape identity development for these young people. But most young people are also active agents in this process. Movement towards stability and coherence is normative, yet there remain dynamic elements that shape the relationship between identity and behaviors. Teens often select activities that feel identity congruent and interpret and respond to a given situation based on an aspect of identity that are salient at the moment. So now at this moment, many of us are really particular about what can I identify myself with. Oh, I'm NAVSEL school, I'm social health school. That may be salient for now. Some it is our church's school. Oh, I belong to Redeemer's Church. I'm one of the head schools of the Kinecon. I'm a choir. All these ways are ways in which people find their identity and link it to things they do. Also, this has implications for adolescent experiences, and it is important context in important contexts such as our schools. Identity processes are connected to a larger set of self-development characteristics, including self-regulation, self-efficacy, and a sense of agency, all of which youths need to help develop and commit to a meaningful goals. So let's talk about the adolescent capacity for self-direction. As adolescents ask, who am I? Their growing cognitive capacities also permit reflection on themselves in relation to a broader collective. What is my role in my school? What role do I have to play in my community? What role do I have to play in my society? As adolescent grows older, They have more opportunities to make their own choices in domains that matter for future outcomes, and their capacity to make such choices also increases. So what are the youth perspectives that is saying? We have few youth perspectives that we consider: sense of agency, purpose, and autonomy. When we say sense of agency, purpose, and autonomy, in the previous session, we discussed the developmental changes in terms of how adolescents put in effort into becoming what they are, but framing them as both capacities of the individual youth and as characteristics afford them the opportunity to have a good developmental pathways that will lead to a thriving adulthood, so that when they forge ahead, they have no regret to start looking for certain things they left behind. So striving for autonomy while remain connected. For most adolescents, establishing a level of independence and self-sufficiency is normative. This typically involves individuating from one's family. However, gaining a sense of autonomy does not mean that adolescents strive to become detached from their families. No, they are still connected with their families. Indeed, the developmental task for most things is about establishing a balance between their autonomy and the connection they still have with their family. But what is most important here is that when you are fighting for autonomy, fighting for independence, you also ensure that there is a balance so that you don't make decisions that will later hurt you. We have seen many adolescents fight their parents on moral issues, but at the end of the day, they come back regretting how they have messed up because of some of the decisions they take. If you remember that I mentioned it earlier, that the brain will continue to develop up until the age of 25. So that means the decision to leave home at 16, at 70 may not be valid because you are still young and the brain is still developing. Here we are talking about autonomy and culture. The concept of autonomy to an adolescent means independence, which is generally accepted as a core value among most cultures oriented towards individualism. Our own culture is not really oriented towards individualism. More reason why you see our parents, even in our 30s, they are still following us, they are still monitoring our progress, because this is a society that is we use a collectivist approach. Collectivist approach means that your parents, they have a stake in your life, your siblings have a stake. So also they do in my own life too. And in contrast, one might expect that youth from cultures oriented towards collectivism and interdependence to be more inclined towards harmonious, less conflictual relationship with parents and a lower desire for individuation. In this our own environment, collectivism is the order of the day. Even when you want to at 25, they still want to monitor what you want to do. So, because in this side, it's not about you as an individual. If you fail at age 25, in this part of the world, they will still lash your parents that your parent did not do well. But if it's overseas, if you fail at 18, they say, oh, it's your business. It's your cup of problem. But here, at 30, your parents cannot afford to see you fail. You see some people, even age 25, after attempting 3-4 schools, their parents will still re-enroll them for another program, such that you know that the role of interdependence is really complex in our own side here. So I think I'm almost my concluding remarks, and that's my last slide for today. My concluding remarks here is just simple. During adolescence, young people acquire the cognitive skills necessary to think about complex problems. related to their life goals and their role in the world. They may question the legitimacy and fairness of their everyday experiences and social institutions. Indeed, the social system they must navigate: school, employment, healthcare system, justice, and a host number of things. All of these are quite complex, and they often require them to engage in independent decision making. Two important questions stemming from the reality are: what experiences are needed to support adolescents' agency as they transition into adult roles? What experiences are needed to support adolescents as they are transitioning to adult roles? And the second one is: what might our society look like if all adolescents felt a sense of commitment to something personally meaningful and goal direction that extends beyond self? So let's say, oh, this part of the world, let's imagine all adolescents are goal driven. That means we may probably have a better society. Because if we talk about drug use, who are the users? Younger ones. We talk about Boko Haram, who are they using? The younger people. But if the younger people are goal oriented, I tell you that we will have a better society that will extend beyond self. So I'm going to end my presentation here now and allow all of you to. I want to stop. Just hold on. Let me stop my video first. Stop the recording.